Subscribe to our YouTube channel to hear exclusive interviews, game highlights, along with thoughts and comments from King James Radio Network founder Corbett Thompson, including rants about his beloved New York Mets.
Corbett Thompson here as we premiere our Out of the Blue and Orange episode here on YouTube. Thank you guys for listening in. This is where you will hear me talk and primarily rant about New York Mets baseball. As you know, I've been a Mets fan for a long time, probably too long, since 1984. And so watching the good, the bad, and the ugly with this team over the last 35 years, it's been an adventure, to say the least. Anyway, so glad you guys are here with us on our YouTube page. And so this was originally our radio show that we did on the King James Radio Network at jamesisking.com. But we're moving it over to YouTube, and it's just going to be brief snippets, not going to be too long, just brief. I'll try to keep it to 10 minutes, just 10-minute snippets or whatever, and, just try to keep it at that. But, with that being said, when I look at opening weekend, the Mets opening weekend in Washington against the Nationals, the Mets taking 2 out of 3, of course, losing the third game in the bottom of the ninth inning, courtesy of Trey Turner. Trey Turner, I'll start there. I mean, he is the essence of a gnat. And when I say gnat, I don't mean, N-A-T-S, as a gnat as in G-N-A-T. The guy steals bases, hits home runs. He has become one of the newest Met killers out there. And so now, especially if you're Noah Syndergaard and you're having trouble holding on base runners, you got to watch Trey Turner at all times. And he is the one guy that you cannot, let run amok on the bases, and you can't serve him up fastballs. Although the pitch from Justin Wilson in the bottom of the ninth inning in today's game that Turner hit for the home run, it wasn't in a bad location. He got it, relatively down and in, and Turner just turned on it and hit it, down the left field line there. So, that you might have to tip your hat to Turner there. But that being said, again, that's just something where, you don't want that happening too often if you're a Mets fan. So anyway, the second observation with the Nationals is, if I was Davey Martinez and I was the manager, I would be seriously worried about the bullpen. I would be seriously worried about their bullpen because they can't get anybody out. Whether it's their closer Doolittle, whether it's their setup guy, they can't get anybody out. So the Nationals, if that's a lingering issue for them, then there's going to be some problems for them throughout the course of the season. It's one thing to have your starting pitching like Max Scherzer and like Steven Strasburg, but if your bullpen can't get anyone out and can't hold leads or can't hold games to keep your team in the game, then what good is it? So, like I said, good luck with that. But anyway, as far as the Mets go, listen, the idea, of course, is to win series. You take 2 out of 3. I know people were upset because Mickey Callaway didn't play Jeff McNeil to start the game or Wilson Ramos. He brought both of those guys in later on in the game today. But, listen, I'm not a fan of taking out multiple regulars in a game, having them sit. I'm not a fan of it. Listen, like I said, I've been a Mets fan since '84, so I've seen Mickey's not the first one to do it. He won't be the last to do it. Bobby Valentine used to do it. Right on down the line, Willie Randolph, Jerry Manuel, they all do it. They all sit multiple regulars. To me, it makes no sense. You could to seriously deplete your lineup like that for a game. I don't like it, but they all do it. So you live and die with it. So I'm not going to sit there and just jump all over Mickey because they all do it. But, that being said, like I said, you like the fact that they took 2 out of 3 here from the Nationals, and you get ready for Miami now. And Miami, interesting. They're 2-2. The Marlins are. So at least to start the year anyway, because I know, listen, and you're not going to hear me use the word Yankees a lot on here when I do these installments, but you look at their series against the Orioles. I don't know what I got to check the score. They were down 3-0. The Yankees were to the Orioles. So everybody thought the Orioles, were going to be doormats and people were just going to walk all over them. But, the Orioles are just, right there fighting tooth and nail with the Yankees. But that being said, that I draw a parallel to the Marlins, right? Everybody thinks the Marlins they're going to lose like 110 games or whatever. But even the worst teams in baseball, even the worst teams in the sport will win a third of their games. So this is not the time, especially early in the year, to take the Marlins lightly and give them any linger of hope that they're going to contend in this division, because it's going to be tough enough with the Nationals, with the Phillies, with the Braves. It's going to be tough enough to compete. Now, it's funny, the Mets have the Nationals, 13 games here in the month of April, or at least 13 games in the early part of the season. So most of their games with the Nationals will be done early, and then they'll have a handful of games the rest of the way. Probably won't see the Nationals again for quite some time. I have to look at the schedule, but they probably won't see the Nats again in quite some time. But after the 13 games, I mean. But that being said, listen, I'll tell you, as far as what I like so far, so good from Edwin Diaz. Guy comes in yesterday's game, the Saturday game, comes in, one pitch, shuts the door, game over. Now, listen, the Mets almost blew an 11-4 lead in the process because, Seth Lugo couldn't finish it. But up until today, the first two games, it seemed like whatever Mickey Callaway touched, almost everything Mickey Callaway touched in the first two games turned to gold. Like when he left Wilson Ramos out there instead of pinch running for him, worked out. Ramos ended up scoring. Just little things like that if the Mets had lost, Mickey would be getting destroyed. So, and I think part of the success of those first two games, obviously you have to give a huge credit to the bench coach, Jim Riggleman. That's why he was brought in, to be the eyes and ears for Mickey and to let him know, hey, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. So some credit should go to Jim Riggleman in that regard. And then we'll see how much of a role, the hitting coach Chili Davis plays. But, with that being said, you got to like what you see from Jeff McNeil. That's why people were screaming about him not playing to start the game today. You got to like what you see from Pete Alonso. I mean, the guy, he had, 6 hits in this series? I mean, the guy just, he just hits the ball everywhere. So, for once, the Mets made the right decision in starting Alonso at first base. So, and bringing in Dominic Smith late for defense. So that's probably the way they should and will go, at least in the early stages. So you like that. Robinson Cano off to a decent start here. I know, today wasn't his best day, but certainly in the opener with Jacob deGrom pitching, and of course Jacob deGrom only gets but so much run support no matter who's in the lineup. So, just like Cano hits the home run. All right, Jake, here's your run. Good luck. And so deGrom has to go out and pitch with that room for error. Very little room for error, but he was able to do it. And Noah Syndergaard, Syndergaard and Wheeler, both struggled at times in their outings. And I think in today's game with Wheeler, it was just the one inning and the 3-run homer to Turner. You would swear it was Justin Turner up there instead of Trey Turner, but nonetheless, that one bad inning, a 3-run homer to Turner, and that's what she wrote there. And that came back later in the game, even though the Mets came back and tied the game. You go back to that inning, the 3-run homer to Turner, and that's where things started to come undone a little bit. Now Wheeler did get it together, and because he threw 60 pitches through the first 3 innings, you didn't think he was going to last too long, which he didn't. So that'll have to be adjusted, of course. But with that being said, you get your top 3 pitchers, you get 2 out of 3, you take it, and then you go to Steven Matz in Miami. And I would assume Vargas is going to pitch in Miami as well, Jason Vargas, although he was on call if the Mets had to go to extra innings today. But with that being said, deGrom, now that the contract is over, the contract situation is over, he's got his 5 years, he's got his $137 million. Now that he can focus on just going out and throwing every 5 days, now you should see the Jacob deGrom. I don't know if you're going to get to see what you saw last year, but you get to see the deGrom that we've all come to know and love, hopefully. And then hopefully Syndergaard, Wheeler, Matz, those guys will follow suit. Vargas, there's a reason they've kept Vargas on this team. So I'm not ready to ship Vargas out just yet. There's a reason they've kept him on this team. Let me give him a few starts first. Let me give him 5 starts or whatever to see what he can do, and then we go from there. But, with that being said, that's kind of a brief synopsis of, what's happening. Brandon Nimmo. I'm not worried about Brandon Nimmo just yet. He went 1 for 11 in this series. I'm not worried about Nimmo yet. He came out late in the game for McNeil because the Mets needed offense. But I'm not worried about Nimmo yet. But again, give it time. Now, if Nimmo continues to struggle, a couple of weeks into the season, then we might have to reevaluate some things. But I'm not worried about Nimmo yet. Conforto, not worried about Conforto. And Lagares had a big base hit today. Juan Lagares. I mean, he's out there for his glove, but, we'll see what Lagares gives you at the plate. So that's kind of a brief synopsis of the weekend. Pitching, I say you probably give the pitching, I'd say probably give the pitching a B-, considering that, none of the starting pitchers let the game get away from them. DeGrom obviously pitched by far the best out of all 3, but none of the pitchers let the game get away from him, so I'll give him a B-. And then the offense, you'll give the offense, I say you give the offense an A-, in that they scored enough runs to win today. They just didn't, and they certainly scored enough runs to win yesterday. And they did, spot DeGrom, albeit a small lead, they did spot DeGrom a lead. So I'll give them an A-, on the offense. So offense A-. Pitching, what did I say for pitching? I said pitching was a B. I believe pitching I said B. And the bullpen, you gotta factor in Wilson losing the game today. So probably a B- there as well. So, so like I said, 2 out of 3, you take it, you move on to Miami, and you go from there. So I will be back at some point, probably next weekend, but maybe even before that if I get upset enough. So we go from there. So thank you guys for listening, and I will talk to you next weekend with the Mets, and all throughout the week on our YouTube channel. And like I said, you can just click the subscribe button to, get a notification on when I will be on, whether it be Mets related or King James Radio Network related, with our North Brunswick Raiders coverage and whatever else we might be doing. So goodbye, Godspeed. Thank you guys for listening, and very much appreciated. My friend here, she's waiting for me, so I'll get back to her. But until then, I will talk to you guys at another time. All right? Have a good night.